welcome to All Steelers Talk, your home for everything Pittsburgh Steelers, presented by allsteelers.com. What is up, Steelers Nation? Thank you so much for jumping on to another episode of All Steelers Talk. I'm Noah Strackbine, joined every Monday and Wednesday by my main man, Steven Thompson. Find us on youtube.com/All Steelers Talk and subscribe anywhere you get your podcasts. We are days removed from the NFL draft. The next generation of Pittsburgh Steelers are in-house. The city is bumping. Omar Khan has a statue being built as we speak. Vibes are good. The weather's nasty, but nobody cares because everybody in the Steel City is feeling great about what the future holds. It's been a good weekend, man. How you feeling, my friend?
Feeling good, yeah. That was my first draft. It's a long.
Was your first draft?
It's a long process.
Yes.
Usually when I had to pay attention to the draft before, it was just I was looking for one or two guys, from Pitt, but when you're just waiting for certain teams to pick or whatever, it's a little takes a little longer. But yeah,
Yes.
just sitting at this very day. If you want to go behind the scenes, draft coverage was just me sitting at this desk that I'm at right now for 3 straight days, and it was This was home for a long time.
It is 3 straight days. You don't really get to. I think the best part about covering the draft is obviously the beginning. You weren't at the facility with me, but you get to talk to these guys immediately. Getting Joey Porter Jr. to come after he was picked at 32 was real cool. I've never actually experienced something like that before. And then his dad, Joey Porter, was there too. I got to congratulate him, which was, just cool. It's cool to see that in person. But when it comes down to the nitty gritty, that 5, 6, 7 round guys, you don't realize until you're in the thick of it. Wow, I have never in my life sat here and watched every single pick of the NFL draft. You don't even think about it. But I mean, it's cool because you get to see guys and be like, oh yeah, that was a good pick at, round 6. Never thought I'd pay attention and think that was a good pick, but you get a new perspective.
Right. And those can be some of the most fun picks to watch.
Yeah.
We get kind of caught up in the where does this guy fit in? What does he mean? What's the football kind of evaluation of this pick? But then you see these videos of guys in their living rooms crying with their parents because, they just realized their dream and stuff. And that's part of what makes this event special. We're months and months away from these guys ever doing anything on a football field, but you can just kind of enjoy them hitting this milestone now, which is a good feeling. And that's fun to watch too.
Yeah, it is. The draft is, it's the best weekend of the year. I think it's, exhilarating would be the word. You're exhausted by Sunday morning, but it's always worth it. With that said, the Steelers, walked away. I haven't seen a grade less than an A anywhere. I take that back. Mel Kiper Jr. decided to give them a B+, but I think Steelers fans will just look at that and say yeah, whatever, Mel. Nobody cares. A+, A's all around. They walk away. Broderick Jones moving up from 17 to 14. They stick around at 32 and land Joey Porter Jr., something many, if any of us, decided or saw coming. Keanu Benton at 49, which was a name that Derek has tossed at us all offseason long to watch and almost guaranteed he'd be a Steeler. Spot on with that one. And then they move back from 80 to 93 and still land the guy that they say was top of their list in Darnell Washington, a name that I had them drafting in the first round in my final mock draft. And then they finish it off with Nick Herbig, which was hands down the best interview of the weekend. Just to pause here for a second. Nick Herbig, the second he answered the phone with the media, because as it works, the pick comes in, you get that news piece out real quick, and then you jump on a conference call with the player that just got drafted before you talk to their position coach, either it's Terrell Austin or in this case, it was Denzel Martin who came in and talked to us. But you talk to the player first on a conference call, and everybody's always excited. You hear the family screaming in the background. The second Nick Herbig answered the phone, he was crying. And I was just like, that is so cool. All he talked about was getting to play with his brother, Nate, which I thought was, it gave me chills. As somebody who is close with my brothers, it was so cool to be like, this guy could care less about getting drafted to the Steelers. It was just the fact that he gets to play with his brother, right, I think adds a little bit extra spark. Coolest interview of the weekend. And then they finish it off with Corey Trice, who, Nick Martin of the Draft Pod described it as his film has him levitating. Don't even know what that means, but it's got to be good.
Mhm.
and end it with Spencer Anderson, which doesn't appear to be a big name, but a guy who's played all 5 positions on the offensive line gives you a little bit of a John Glue feel, or John LeGlue, excuse me, feel. Good practice squad addition, depth, deep depth to have in the 7th round. You walk away from this. Again, I haven't seen much criticism, if any, from the Steelers draft, but how impressed were you with the haul that they were able to pull in the last 3 days?
I was very impressed. They hit just about every need that they had. They did it by getting good value at their positions, trading back, and still getting Darnell Washington was impressive. Yeah, this was Omar Khan could not have gotten his first not could not have conducted his first draft any better. I don't think.
Yep.
Like you said, Mel Kiper gave him a B plus or whatever, B minus. Where was the room for improvement? Where like what could they have done to, I guess maybe you're disappointed they didn't trade up for Jalen Carter, but that seemed like a long shot to begin with.
Yeah.
This was about as good a draft as it could have gone. I was so shocked that Darnell Washington slid as far as he could. That felt like that was the like Broderick Jones, good pick. Joey Porter, good pick. Keanu Benton, good pick. But Washington at that spot felt like the highlight of the draft to me.
Yeah, I agree. And even with the Jalen Carter thing, like in the moment, you're sitting there and you're going, oh, he's at 9. Here he goes. Steelers got to
Mhm.
make a move now. Or, whether it was Christian Gonzalez or whoever, there were names out there. But to not do it, land Broderick Jones, who's now your franchise left tackle, and then be
Right.
able to draft Keanu Benton at 49, which is like, if you're going to get a substitute for Jalen Carter, I get it. Keanu Benton is not Jalen Carter, but you feel really good about that pick. Like, you're not
Right.
upset about the new defensive line addition to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Like, oh man, they didn't get Jalen Carter. Like, no, they got Keanu Benton. Feel pretty good about it. But I agree with you. Darnell Washington at 93 was nuts. And what's even more nuts about that is the fact that they took a risk. They didn't move back 3 spots. This wasn't a
Right.
let's just, back it up 1 or 2 spots because he's still going to be there. Or you moved 13 spots back. That's half the NFL. And you
Right.
said, well, we know that
This
he's
guy's
not going to get drafted. He'll still be there. He's our guy. And to land, just like you said, like, I was shocked. I get the medical stuff. Like, if he's got a bad knee, that's worrisome. But you don't draft somebody in the 3rd round unless your doctors are telling you he's going to be fine. Like,
Mhm.
everything's totally okay. Maybe he needs this or that over the summer and he's a little slow to get started, but long term, everything's going to be totally fine. Like, you don't take a risk on a guy like that, especially in the 3rd round. But I agree with you. That pick right there was like, that was the highlight. You could talk about moving up from 17 to 14 and only giving up a 4th round pick. You feel really good about that one too. Shout out to the Patriots screwing the Jets. That's got to feel real good for you. And
Absolutely.
you could talk about getting Joey Porter Jr. and holding strong there, but to take that risk and understand, I think that's what it showed me, is that Omar Khan gets this league so well. Like, he has such a strong understanding of what's going on around him that he was able to say, yeah, we can move back 13 spots and our guy is still going to be there. Like, we're totally fine with it. It's not a risk at all. And then you got to remember, like, you don't get Nick Herbig if you don't make that move. And somehow you
Right.
landed both of them. Herbig was definitely high on their list, like 100% high on their list to be able to make that move. Yeah, that's my biggest win, excuse me, from this draft for the Steelers, is to get Darnell Washington. But I think that the fact that you were able to still get Joey Porter Jr. at 32, like, that's a guy that me and you 48 hours before this, or 24 hours before this thing kicked off, had a consensus that was their pick at 17. To
Right.
slide down to 32. I mean, you got to feel bad for Joey Porter Jr., but if anything, I think it helps the situation, because I think he's pissed. Like, Joey Porter Jr. is all smiles all the time, and he came in there and he's like, "Yeah, man, I had to leave the draft. I was so upset, and now I got a chip in my shoulder." And I think that's an even better Joey Porter Jr. that you're getting, to get him at 32 than to get him at 17. It just seems like if you put all the mock drafts together, everything that we talked about, and just slammed it into one and said these are the best picks from each of them, Omar Khan just put them all into his actual draft class, which has never happened before. I think that's Omar is probably the biggest takeaway from this whole thing, is just how impressive he was, especially knowing who the Steelers were and how stagnant this team was, and how, you know what I mean, the poking meme with the stick that's like, do something. That's
Yeah.
like, that's been the mascot of this team for the last decade. And then he walks in here and in 3 days he's just like, screw it, I'm gonna blow the whole thing up.
Yeah. It was a real shot in the arm, I felt like. I felt like people were a little more on edge going into this draft, like, you didn't know where they
Yes.
were gonna go. It felt like there were a lot of options, and you didn't love every one of them, but everything kinda fell their way. And I think you made a great point about Omar kinda having his finger on the pulse, just where the league is and where his competitors are and where the people
Yep.
ahead and behind him in the draft were and people competing for the same players, and he pushed all the right buttons to make sure that they landed everything that they needed through this draft. Like, the idea that the fact that they got I'm willing to say 3 first-round talents between
Yep.
Washington, Porter, and Broderick Jones within 93 picks, like, that's pretty crazy, and that's pretty nuts, and Omar Khan deserves every ounce of credit that he's gotten over the
Oh yeah.
weekend, and he got a lot, and it was all
Yes.
deserved.
Yeah, he did get. I was loving it. I was loving because you could tell, like in the press conference, like you have to target, and it's always awkward to ask questions about a guy sitting right there to the guy sitting next to him.
Mhm.
But like you could tell, Mike Tomlin was just like, this guy deserves his flowers. Give him his
Yeah.
flowers. Like, and Omar was just like, yeah, man, I killed it. It is what it like. The fact that
Mhm.
Mike acknowledged the con artist meme was our nickname
Yeah.
was awesome. But I agree with you. Like you walked out of this draft, the Steelers somehow walked out of here. Like we were talking, maybe they'd get one starter. Maybe they'd get 2. No, depending on the move or where it is. The Steelers walked out of here with a franchise left tackle, a franchise cornerback, possibly a second cornerback because Corey Trice is 6'3", 210 pounds, could play inside, outside, and safety. If he didn't tear his ACL and have 2 ankle surgeries, then maybe you're talking about this guy a lot higher than the 7th round. I got expectations for him. I'm not going to say he's a franchise corner, but a good 7th round pick. But you walked out of here with the franchise left tackle, which is the first time in our existence that the Steelers have had a franchise left tackle ever. I've never been alive for them to have a franchise left tackle, a franchise cornerback for just the second time. I mean, Joe Hayden, great move, but you got him later in his career. This is the biggest name to play corner for the Steelers since Ike Taylor.
Yeah.
A second tight end, which in today's NFL is as valuable as the first one, and adds value to the other 2 tight ends that you were already hoping turned into franchise tight ends. So that's a 3rd starter. You got a nose tackle. That's a 4th starter. And you have your 3rd edge rusher / off-ball linebacker. You filled 2 positions in one spot. And then hopefully you got some type of depth on the offensive line. Like absolutely, you had 7 picks and you walked away with 4, maybe 4.5 starters. That doesn't
Yeah.
happen in the NFL. Like it does not happen at all. And then afterwards you just continue the dominance.
Yeah. So they made what, 6 picks, 5 pick no,
7.
7 picks. 6 of those guys are going to play next year. Yeah,
Yes.
everyone outside of Anderson is going to contribute in some way. Like even
Yep.
Trice and Herbig, they're going to play. I mean, Trice is probably the biggest wild card, but Herbig's going to play, Washington's going to play, Benton's going to play, Porter and Broderick Jones are all going to play and play some significant snaps. And I don't know, and that doesn't feel like a threat, that like
No.
you're excited about this. You're excited to see what these guys can do because they're at positions of need, really talented, and you felt like you got a steal at each of these picks.
Yeah. And I think what's cool is, after now maybe it's the end of the draft, and maybe it's after day 1. I don't remember. But even Matt Canada acknowledged it during his press conference, is that they target these guys who come from winning programs because they already know how to win. And I think that's
Mhm.
huge because me and you have talked about this before. I've hammered this notion the entire offseason that I think the Steelers Super Bowl window opens this season. And with this draft, it only widens. Like you're only looking at this going, oh, okay, well, things are getting brighter now because you look at the teams who win Super Bowls and they have those young pieces in key positions who come in here. I mean, the Kansas City Chiefs last year, Creed Humphrey playing center. Like that is a key position to have a rookie come in and be as dominant as you need him to be. Broderick Jones is a perfect example there. Kansas City again with their cornerbacks, very young
Yeah.
corners. Joey Porter Jr. is about to step in here with Patrick Peterson. Like it's the perfect mix of, we have veterans who know how to win in this league, who are very dominant in this league. And now we have rookies who on most teams in the NFL would start immediately. And now they get to blend in and mix well. are mixing as well. I think it's huge. I think the biggest winners on the Steelers, and maybe you got different thoughts here. Kenny Pickett, obviously, to have Darnell Washington and a franchise left tackle, that's huge. Najee Harris, though, I think
Yeah.
there is no bigger winner coming out of this draft than Najee to sit there and be like, it has been 2 very, very long years of a developing offensive line. And he's walking into this season with the right side, which is already cemented in Chooks, James Daniels, and then Mason Cole. And now he just got a new left guard that he feels that you have to feel very confident in. Like, the dude just went to the Super Bowl on the best running team in football.
Right. That was the
And
best offensive line in football too. Like
the
that
best
was
offensive line in football, and he was the starting left guard. Now he's in Pittsburgh, and you just drafted an absolute freak of a left tackle and the biggest tight end in the NFL instantly, who
right.
teams were asking at the NFL Combine if he would move to tackle in the NFL if given the opportunity. So he's clearly knows how to block. Like, Najee's got to be on cloud 9 right now, thinking, wow, this is about to be a wild year.
Yeah. I absolutely agree. Najee's probably the biggest winner. I'd say another one is Terrell Austin. Like, he got some great pieces, some like great weapons on defense to play around with between Benton, Trice, Herbig, and then obviously Porter too. He's got options now. I felt like we came into this offseason looking at the defense and thinking, wow, the cupboard's kind of bare. Their options, either they're re-signing free agents that you're not super thrilled with, or you're going to the draft and counting on a lot of rookies, but they made some moves in the offseason that made these draft moves, I felt like, even stronger,
Yeah.
Signing Patrick Peterson makes that Joey Porter addition look really great.
Trice too, because if you need Trice to develop, I mean, that's the guy you need to develop with.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And then, you already have some starting linebackers you feel like in there, so Herbig can come along too. He's got guys to learn from. Same with Benton, like Keanu Benton getting to learn from Cam Hayward. That seems ideal. Yeah, like, I think Terrell Austin is another big winner in just the defense as a whole.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Huge opportunity all around. I mean, and you go through, I had a thought and it's totally gone now. I had a thought on what you were saying there, but I agree. I think Terrell, like, this is now a team where, and on top of that, you now look at it and what comes next, like what moves can still be made. And I think they set themselves up for that perfectly as well. Like, Akella Witherspoon has been a guy that's been teetering on, is he going to stay? Is he going to go? What's going to happen here? You don't cut Akella Witherspoon. What you do is either you bring him into the offseason or into the summer and you feel really good about him, or you trade him and you get a 5th round value for this guy. And boom, you just added another 5th round pick and replaced him with a rookie that you got in the 7th round. Like, that's got to feel so good. You now allow Patrick Peterson to really genuinely move around. You add another option to replace Arthur Millette in coverage at times. Yeah, it's just what they did was you take pressure off of Mark Robinson because, Nick Herbig could play off ball and off the edge. So it feels two holes there. And you're not looking at Braden Fajoko and Armand Watts as your only starters at nose tackle. Keanu Benton could start and learn at the same time, play 2 downs at nose tackle, 1 down at defensive tackle. Like, that's huge. Like, what they did was so big. And then they go into the undrafted class and they add even more. And I'm impressed with that class as well. I mean, you look at names like cue dramatic sounds. We don't have those. Okay. This is a public service announcement. Manscaped now has beard products and is going even further with their brand new Weed Whacker 2.0. Go ahead and tell the world. The leaders in below the waist grooming are traveling north of your South Pole with their revolutionary grooming products. The Weed Whacker 2.0 and their new beard line confirms that they have all the best tools for your hygiene toolbox. Time for you to upgrade your game by going to manscaped.com and using our code Steelers20 for 20% off plus free shipping. If you're Italian, I'm Italian. I talk about it all the time. You got some nose hair, you got some ear hair. It just comes with the territory. You need the Weed Whacker 2.0. Gentlemen, meet the Beard Hedger Pro Kit. It is the ultimate package that makes it easier than ever to craft your signature look. It all starts with the cordless electric beard hedger. The beard hedger is a tough on hair but smooth on your face, leading to single stroke efficiency that brings satisfaction 1 stroke at a time. This waterproof cordless trimmer has a rotary wheel that gives you 20 hair cutting lengths, all with one guard. So, no more messy drawers full of extra add-ons. The Pro Kit also comes with 4 dermatologist tested formulations for your post-care trim. That includes Manscaped's beard shampoo and conditioner, beard oil, and beard balm to moisturize, style, and shimmer your new beard. Plus, the kit has 3 free gifts: a beard brush, comb, and scissors. With a nice beard, your face is perfectly groomed, right? Wrong. You need to keep an eye out for those tough to trim ear and nose hairs. The brand new Weed Whacker 2.0 offers improved blades and skin safe technology with a no tugging guarantee. It's never been so painless to mind your manholes. Now that you have your face looking great, you must try Manscaped's Performance Package 4.0 for the full body grooming experience. Good news. The Performance Package 4.0 now comes with the Weed Whacker 2.0 and all of the other below the waist grooming products Manscaped is known for. Your significant other will be delighted to see you covering all the bases, if you know what I mean. So, get 20% off and free shipping with our code Steelers20 at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com. And all you have to do is use our code Steelers20. Always use the right tools for the job with Manscaped. You know, Tanner Morgan's the big one, obviously, that stands out, quarterback out of Minnesota. I don't really know how I feel about this guy, but I think that I watched a couple of highlights from him. I think he's real hit or miss, you know, but as a third quarterback, what are you going to do? Monty the Mullet, Pottenbaum, Pop
Hell yeah.
Bomb.
Hell
Yeah,
yeah.
what a name. Favorite player on the entire roster, hands down, immediately. You get another return guy in Jordan Byrd, who you got to feel real good about. And then my favorite guy out of this entire draft is David Perales, defensive end out of Fresno State. I shouldn't say out of the entire draft, out of the entire undrafted free agent class. Guy comes in here after 23 sacks in college. I believe he had 11 and a half this past season. Shocked that he didn't get drafted, but to come in here, like, that's another edge rusher that you could compete and beat out Quincy Roche. And now you have 4 edge rushers, all of them under the age of like 28 years old, 2 of them on contracts for the next 5 years, and then 2 of them on rookie deals for the next 4 years. That's huge. Like, that is as good as it gets for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, I feel like it's hard to get to add as much depth, add as much quality depth that will be ready right away through the draft as the Steelers did. They, like you said, you just rattled off a bunch of names that they've added that could play. They have at least 7 or 8 guys who could play right away. I'm just so excited for training camp because I'm excited to see which of these guys really separate themselves and who of these guys, we can talk about, oh, these guys could play, there's opportunities, there's paths, but I'm just really excited to see who actually separates themselves and who we walk away from camp in Latrobe thinking, oh, this guy's an NFL player right away. And
Yeah. And think about a year ago when we were out there, we were drooling over guys like Denzel Scott, who had no business making the NFL, like none at all. But to us, we were like, this guy looks impressive. Like, how deep you have to go to find those off the wall random guys this year is going to be so difficult. Like you can't find a corner out there this year for the Steelers that isn't already on the roster. Like you're not going to get that random dude who shows up at, rookie mini camp and then gets an invite to training camp. You're not going to find that. I mean, maybe a wide receiver, but maybe a linebacker, but you're not going to find that, that offensive or defensive lineman. Those guys aren't there anymore. Those positions are already filled. Like, this team is ready to go. Now it's just about, okay, who's actually this good? Who's even better than we anticipated? And who's ready to, earn a spot that maybe wasn't able to earn a spot. And I think every single one of these draft picks, I mean, even Spencer Anderson is a guy that, do I expect him to make the roster? No, but I think that is as high quality of a practice squad guy as they possibly come. Like John LeGlue energy to the point where he could play center, he could play guard, he could play tackle, wherever you need this guy to play. He started at all 5 positions in college. That does not happen. And then you go out and you sign who they saw out of Iowa State, Trevor Downing, who started at center last year for Iowa State, who played on a team. Iowa State averaged like 400 yards a game
Yeah.
in 2022. Like wild offense. He comes in here, he started at center and both guards and played a little bit of tackle as well. Like, you just grab guys that you're just like, worst case scenario, we could plug you in anywhere we need you to go.
Right.
And that's just so valuable, especially a year ago when JC Hassenauer and Kendrick Green were like the prime backups for this team. You forget at this point that Kendrick Green's even on the roster right now for
Right.
the
Oh
Steelers.
yeah, absolutely. Like, do you feel like he? I guess they didn't draft many guards, but he maybe
No,
has
he's
about.
gone. Yeah, he's gone. He's
Do you think
gone.
he's
I
like
think you
gone?
replace him.
Like,
Oh yeah, 100%. I don't even know if you could get anything for him. Maybe,
I was.
maybe
Yeah.
you could get a 5th round pick for him. Maybe for a
Yeah.
team that like really wants him. But like, no, what do you for a guy who didn't suit up one time last year, in my opinion, and I know that this is just an opinion, but I looked at Kendrick Green as the only reason he's still on the roster is because the Steelers don't want to admit how bad they screwed up. Like how
Mhm.
bad of a pick that was. But he's not a guy that, if you couldn't suit him up over JC Hassenauer last year, you're not suiting him up over, Nate Herbig and Kevin Dotson this year. It's just not
Yeah.
happening. And Kevin Dotson, that's another name. Like you could trade Kevin Dotson at any point this offseason and get value for him back too. You're just stockpiling because of how deep you are. That's crazy.
Do you think Kevin Dotson actually ends up getting moved? And like, what's kind of his value? Because I saw that a bunch during the draft. People seem to think that because of these moves, the Steelers have that option now.
I do think that they have that option. I don't know where his value is. Like I have a hard time with that one. He's a 4th round pick. He's got starting experience. So I think that you get something for him. Like I think that he goes to a lot of teams and has an opportunity to start. But I also think that the Steelers aren't gonna just like give up on him. You know what I mean? Like they're not just gonna be like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, well, it's over. We're moving on. Kevin Dotson's, he's getting cut or he's getting traded before training camp starts. I think you go into training camp, you see what happens. Maybe Isaac Seumalo isn't it. I expect him to be it. I have no expectations for him not to be it. But I think that you don't trade Dotson until you like really have to, and then you trade Kevin Dotson.
Yeah.
But I think
Because
you could get a 5th round value for him, maybe even a 4th, depending on what happens. Because if somebody goes down in training camp somewhere, and a team needs a guard, Dotson comes in here with 2 years of starting experience and has looked good, like very good at times, looked decent at other times. Like there's never been a point where you're like, oh, Kevin Dotson stinks. He's given up 2 concussions to Kenny Pickett. Yeah, 100%. But the second one was 100% Kenny Pickett's fault, to a degree. Like, you don't let Roquan Smith just walk by you, but Kenny Pickett needs to learn when to get the hell down and not take hits from Roquan Smith 4 snaps into the game.
yeah.
But you look at Kevin Dotson, like you look at him as he's a value guy, he doesn't have a place. He has a place on all 32 teams in the NFL, and that holds value.
Yeah, I was gonna say he's not. It's different from Kendrick Green because you're not just like I'll take what I can get for him.
Yeah.
Like it's got to be a good value for him because he provides you with value.
Yes.
I was gonna ask, were you surprised that so outside of is Jordan Bird from San Diego State? Is that he's a
Yeah.
wide receiver, right? So that's the
Running back, wide
only.
receiver, kind of like he's like a Dree Archer, which is a bad comparison to anybody in the NFL, but that's
uh-huh.
what he reminds me of.
Yeah. Were you surprised that they didn't draft a wide receiver or take any other kind of big name like that from
I
the
I
receivers?
was, but I think that they set themselves up to avoid that position of need. Like
Mm,
you still somehow walk into the summer with Deontay Johnson, George Pickens, Calvin Austin, Allen Robinson, and now you're allowed to use Pat Fryermuth anywhere you want on the football field, which I expect him to play a lot more slot receiver than I do, off the line. Like I expect Pat Fryermuth to almost be identical to Travis Kelce, like in what he does in Kansas City, which is not a whole ton of actual tight end.
mhm,
Connor Hayward's the same way. Like I expect Connor Hayward to be used a lot in the slot and those check down guys. Like, dude, I think the Steelers' biggest need was speed, and we've talked about that. They don't have a long ball. They have nobody to go deep. But maybe Deontay Johnson. I think Deontay Johnson could go deep. Like he's caught deep balls before. He's shown that he could beat people. With his release. George Pickens is just a throw it up and who cares who's down there. He's going to catch a type of guy. Would have liked them to add somebody with that same value. Wouldn't rule it out that they're still going to. I don't think it'll come after with this rookie class, but I think that somewhere, somehow they might still do that. But I think what they did was the addition of Darnell Washington allows them to now have those check down guys that I don't think they necessarily had last year. Like they didn't have that, in middle of the field, get 7 yards type of target. Pat Fryermuth's now that guy. Connor Hayward's now that guy. Allen Robinson's that guy. So I think that they allowed themselves to, expand roles enough to fill that need. I was a little bit surprised. I don't think Bird is an option there. I mean, he's 5'9", like 180 pounds. It's
Yeah.
not really like, again, Dree Archer's he is the comparison, and that's rough. I know. I hope he's got to turn out better than Dree Archer, but I don't know. I'm not upset about it. I think that was their only like glaring, like, could have did that, but I'm not gonna, discredit them for it.
Yeah. And if, there's not really a huge chance that Bird is any better than Calvin Austin, who's already 5'9".
No, yeah, exactly. Like you already have a Bird. Bird also played he played running back in college. I don't know why the Steelers listed him as a wide receiver. Like maybe I guess he played a little bit of both. But you look up his stats, and what do you have at San Diego State? He had 1,300 yards, and 12 touchdowns on the ground. So like he was primarily, but he was just like that, like utility piece. Like he was just that like secret weapon for the Aztecs. And that's he's got such a long shot to make this team, but like maybe he's a better Anthony McFarland, maybe that's what he turns out to be. Maybe he's a return specialist where you don't have to have Calvin Austin on the field returning kicks and punts all the time, or Deontay Johnson returning kicks or punts, or, maybe he's an option to get rid of Gunner. I just, I think that he has some value, but yeah, I do agree with you. I think that was my only like, maybe they could have did that. But the rest of them, I don't know. I feel real good about the whole situation, even with the Monty Mullet. Like, like that guy, if you guys haven't seen a picture of him, go Google a picture of Monty.
Looks like a fullback.
Looks like a fullback from Iowa. Looks like a fullback from Iowa. I wish I knew how to pronounce his last name better. Pottebaum. I believe it is.
I think you got it. Yeah.
Pottebaum. Yeah. The dude is just, I think what is good about him is you add him and you give him an actual chance to make the roster. And is he going to make the roster? Like the chances there are almost to zero, but you give him an opportunity to. And if he does, you don't have to turn Connor Hayward into a blocking fullback. You just turn him into a pass catcher. Like you just let him to be a utility piece. And then you let this guy, Monty Mullet, be, just like, okay, go run straight forward and hit somebody. That's 100% your job. And he'll do it. I don't even know anything about this guy. Haven't watched one clip, a highlight of him. I know for a fact he'll run full force into that line.
Yeah. Fullback from Iowa. Closed. Yeah. Fullback from Iowa. You have to know how to hit people. There's no getting around that.
No. And when you look like that, I mean, I was hyped. That was when I walked in to my house, and that was the first thing. It was like 11 o'clock at night or so. No, it wasn't that late. It was like 8:30, 9 o'clock at night. And I was, writing down all the stuff, and I Googled a picture of, because that's what you saw. Everybody's like Monty the Mullet. And I was like, oh, okay, well, I have to see what this guy looks like. And I was just like, well, he's hands down my favorite draft pick. Yeah. And he's not even a pick. He's my favorite signing that the Steelers made all offseason, hands down. I hope he makes the team. I hope I'm going to be a Monty Mullet pusher in hopes that my influence forces the Steelers to at least consider keeping this guy around. Special teamer. I don't care. I don't care what you do. He's run the ball a couple of times.
Just let me talk to him a couple of times at rookie minicamp. Just let me.
He's the first person. Everybody's going to be talking to Broderick and Joey Porter Jr. and Darnell Washington and so on and so forth. I'm going to be standing there right next to Monty. Just like, so when did you decide to grow the mullet? Was it nice? Yeah.
Were you born with this mullet?
Was this your first haircut? You just decided this is what happens in Iowa, right? Like this is what you guys do. Agreed. It was such a stud. I mean, but it mixed in with studs across this draft board. Phenomenal weekend for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I don't think they could have got any better. I think that the belief and the thought and the hope that this team is pointed in the direction of a Super Bowl is definitely there. And you got to see the talent on the field, obviously. But I mean, every step of the way, it just feels like it's win after win after win, which shout out to Omar Khan, because this guy is absolutely smoking his job. It's hard to hit that like Howie Roseman, type level in the NFL. Omar is gaining a lot of speed to just be like a part of that elite group, and the team has to win on the field, obviously, But putting those pieces together in this first offseason, absolutely wild. Chase Claypool for Joey Porter Jr., I think highlights many positive moves that this guy has made and corrected for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and things seem very, very good. With that, we're heading out of here on a very positive note that the Pittsburgh Steelers NFL draft was a total success. Again, shout out to Omar and all of the 7 picks and 7 undrafted free agents that are now part of the Pittsburgh Steelers organization. We will be back on Wednesday. Thank you for jumping on to another episode. Make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube, youtube.com/All Steelers Talk, and subscribe anywhere you get your podcasts. Check out all of mine, Steven's work at allsteelers.com and insidethepanthers.com. And like I said, we will be back on Wednesday. Enjoy a beautiful post-draft week here in the city of Pittsburgh.